everybody, we are back for part 4 in the last part of this series for our dental assisting program and putting together some 3D models. Now, there may be more videos in the future as we figure some more things out, but we are just going to go over the calibration process of our printer and getting this thing ready to print. We're not actually going to print something, that'll come afterwards, but just getting this printer ready and using those files that we were able to develop in the past couple of videos, and we're going to show you how we upload that from our USB stick. But before we do that, we are going to open this printer up and get her ready. So here we have, as we talked about, this is the build plate. Down here we have what we call just the fill. This is where we place our resin. And now we're just going to go through the process of getting this thing ready to actually print. So we have a bunch of screws that we're going to have to take care of, but we're going to follow some things on the screen, and we're going to have to take care of some stuff over here on the sides. But the first things first, right, we have a couple different buttons here. The top left is going to be the print button, which we aren't there yet. That'll come right at the end of this video. The Z-axis, that is going to help us get everything print ready in the calibration process. So if we think about this in terms of our axes, just like before, we have our X-axis and our Y-axis. The main thing we have to calibrate is the Z-axis, so that three-dimensional aspect. So all those other buttons we don't need to worry about, we just need to focus on that Z-axis. Now there is some measurements, we don't need to worry about that. There's the home button. If you need to go back, it's that second button that looks like it has an arrow down. That is going to be our calibration. So it's going to kind of walk you through the process and we follow the directions. So the first things first is to remove the resin vat. So this down here is the resin vat. It holds all the liquid. All we're going to do is we're going to unscrew all these pieces. So we need to take off those screws, and then we're going to take out the vat. It can get a little sticky because of the substance. And then the next thing it tells us to do is just place a piece of paper. So all you need is just a white piece of paper, plain piece of paper. You cut it in half, and then we're going to place it down. And we place that piece of paper onto the screen. That's just going to help us with the leveling. Then I'm going to hit next. All right, now this is where we're going to start that Z-axis calibration. So this is where we're going to need to have an Allen wrench, and we're going to need to unscrew a couple things. So we took out the build plate, so we're going to install the build plate actually. So this right here is your build plate. Just these screws can help you take it off. So it says we want to make sure that this is installed. Now, when you're looking at it here, make sure you can see that we have that little scuffed up part. All right, we want to look for that little insert. There, underneath here, there is a little screw, so this has to go on first. And then we are just going to tighten that all the way up so the build plate is nice and snug. All right, so that shouldn't go anywhere. Now that is the first part. The second part is to loosen these 4 screws. We don't need to take them all the way out. We just want to make it so they are a little bit loosened. So we'll just take a little, like, couple half turns. All right. And this may take a second, and that's all right. And you'll see why we have to do this in just a second. So we should be able to see that this thing can move a little bit freely. So if it's not super moving, right, may need to loosen these just a little bit more. All right, so this thing should be able to move up and down just fine. So we want those a little loose. Now that that is all done, we're just gonna hit next. And it's going to do a little movement. All right, all this is doing is bringing this down. It is going to hit this build plate. Once it gets down there, it's getting it to like its standard point, so where it doesn't move and it's nice and level. That's what we call the calibration. Once it's down there, we're going to have some prompts that's going to tell us to screw on those screws again. So we're going to tighten those using the same tool. Right, notice how that gap here closed, which is exactly what we need. There still should be a little bit of a gap there. Now it says tighten the screws, so we're going to tighten these 2 screws, and then our calibration will be complete. So we are going to tighten this up, And you don't need to go crazy tightening. Once you hit a little resistance, give it one little push, and then that should be totally fine. So we're gonna get there, keep going. Once you hit a little resistance, that's when I undid a little bit more, which is fine. Hit a little resistance, little push. And now I gotta come to me. Little resistance, a little push. Little resistance, little push. Then I'm gonna hit done. And it's going to raise it all the way back up to its initial position. We can take this piece of paper out of the way. Once it's all the way up, we are going to bring back our resin vat and we are going to put it back into place. When you put this in, there is the word max on here. This is your back. Or if you're looking at it, this little part right here that has the little indent, that is your front. So when you come in here, right, we're gonna line those screw holes up. The vat is gonna go down into place. We are now going to screw these back on. Now your printer is calibrated and ready to print. So at this point, we can hit that home button down here. We can hit the print command. You bring your USB stick in. That USB button is going to pop up in just a second. Now we're not actually gonna pour the resin in there for this video, but you would take your resin, you would pour it into the build plate, and you would fill it at least halfway. Obviously don't go more than the max fill line. Now that we would have that resin in, we would hit USB on the bottom left, and then you'd have your list of files that you can print from. So you would just want to find the one that has the name of the file you just selected. So Rabidu Testing 616 is the file I've just made. I would click that, and then we would just be ready. So we can either hit home, or if you're ready, you hit the check mark. Obviously we aren't printing right now, so I'm not gonna hit that check mark, but that is it. Once you are done, you would hit that check mark, you would close your printer, and then you'd sit back and relax and wait for it to all be done. And that is it.